Hey everybody, it's Corey from Unified Masters. So I think this is my third time trying to put out a video in the past couple of days, and every time I get the phone out or just something happens, because this is kind of a more interesting message to put out, but a reality that at least we're facing over here. So as this full moon and lunar eclipse happened, we've got a lot of energies and timelines weaving through the collective right now that we're all working out our own individual timelines. Some of us are on this timeline that we're on, that Samantha and I are on, other people aren't. So essentially, when there was discussion that was strewn about regarding the arrival of a new matrix, a new grid, into the system. The switch from the Saturnian into the false white light narrative, which is the Luciferian matrix. False white light. Anyway, obviously, so over the past 72 hours, Samantha and I have been diving deep into this and have been really trying to figure out what's going on, because frankly, something doesn't feel right. Okay, and I say that with love and truth and with smiles on, and they're not fake. It's actually just kind of landed at this point where something doesn't feel right. And so since I'm about to get into this, let me do some energy work. So I'm just going to connect everyone to the crystalline core of Gaia, align us with Source, and connect us to the great central sun as we invite in pure source energy into our field. And we say no to anything that isn't pure as we invite in the highest form of love and truth into this message. Let this run through our cells, through every fiber of our being, towards igniting, activating, and expanding us to pure love and to pure light. So with that, we notice a shift on the full moon and the lunar eclipse. And for a little while, so since the beginning of 2020, things are extremely bright and cheery. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of beautiful things to look forward to, and a lot of beautiful things happening in a lot of our life, at least. But there's a dark undertone that is to this timeline that at least I've landed on, and I'm putting this message out there to see if others have landed on this. And this seems to be a lot of that shift into the new power structure. The fall of the old and the rise of the new, and being aware of what this new brings. And now what's being unveiled for us is things like the New Age agenda, and how that is all tying into stuff like Project Bluebeam, and the various projects and agendas that are coinciding to create the new world. And I'm, just for the sake of my content, I'm going to not dive into the names of these different groups. I'll talk about Project Bluebeam, and you can go research it and look it up from there. Just for the sake of flagging, I'm going to leave out some groups out of this. But basically, there's a dark undertone to this timeline that we're on right now. I've landed in these timelines before when I was in San Diego. They feel very virtual reality-like. Extremely predictable, and I've landed on more pure timelines than I've landed on these inorganic timelines. And these inorganic timelines I've landed on, I was always in there for about a week or maybe 2 weeks, and then I would end up leaving that reality. The thing is, though, is that we're here. Okay, at least I am here, and I know for a fact there are others that are on this timeline that are seeing this. The vision seems a lot more like a movie set. Like when you're walking around, the lighting, just the way everything appears is a lot more like a movie set. And it's a little bit more encoded, and a little bit secretive, the way that things operate. And the thing is everyone's going through their own timelines right now, and it seems like there are others that are working through their own individual hells right now. And so since we are having to become a lot more intentional with our creation, this really provides us an opportunity to look at the void, to look at the blank slate as an opportunity to build out, what are we building out on? What are we focusing on? You know, for me, I've gone through a few things recently where I've had a few darker moments and darker things that have strewn about. Hold on one second. Even doing this now, there's a lot of interference that starts to come through. There's a lot of energetic interference that's happening, at least in my realm, with the things salud. A lot of energetic interference that's going on, and having to unplug and constantly say no and claim my sovereignty with all this stuff that's going on. So these grids aren't attached to our apartment, but we notice it as soon as we step out of the door. As soon as we step out the door, salud. And if Samantha's sneezing while I'm saying this, best believe there's truth. There's just something when she sneezes that there's this level of truth with everything. So on this timeline, which feels like a parallel reality that I'm in, even some of our, people that we follow look a little bit different. So facial features have changed just a little bit. There's kind of a dark undertone. And, for me, I really started to get really down in the dumps about landing in this timeline because I thought this part of my life was over with these kind of quote unquote these realities. But recognizing, for me, that there's always a greater purpose to why we land in these timelines. And so for me, I said this in a video that I recorded yesterday, and I'm gonna say it for this one too. Is it's a lot like, you sign up to go to a library for 6 or 7 hours, okay? You go to a library and you realize it's desolate, it's dark, and you don't like it in there. Well, you have an option. You can sit there and complain and whine and be like, how did I end up in this library? I want to get out and show that resistance the entire time. Or you can sit there and just read a few books and learn a few things and learn your lesson and move on. That's what this feels like to me, is it's like, okay, so we're here. All right, we're here. We landed in this zone where there's a lot of things weaving in and out and a lot of stuff that's being collapsed right now. What do we do while we're here? So I've been saying, why don't we sit here and we learn a few things? And so for us, Samantha and I have been taking the time, and I've been too, to just kind of reflect on the energies that are going here and really trying to pull in as much from this timeline that we're on to learn more about why these things happen, why they operate. And this is really unveiling a lot of the New Age agenda for us, which is now recognizing that it has been hijacked. I tried to claim myself as not New Age. And as I was telling a friend today, I was New Age though. I was very New Age. I definitely dove into that realm, but recognizing that it was hijacked, or it was created in the first place to kind of operate this other agenda that's got this kind of dark undertone, this dark underpinning to create some things that aren't so friendly. And if someone wants to talk to me about it one-on-one, we can talk about it one-on-one. I'm just not going to air it out all right here. For the sake of flagging and for the sake of other things. But what really tuned us into what was going on was Samantha's been having some pain that she experienced when she was in Washington, D.C. And that was really, D.C. is so heavily set up with control grids. And she was in that same exact pain that was the biggest clue of what's going on here. And this is the rise of that kind of matrix overlay that I've been in before. That's very much so ran by a not so nice and not so pure timeline. So if you landed here, or you're walking through your own little hell right now, we've got options. We raise ourselves to the highest octave and collapse that timeline and get out of it by making choice, by inviting in more pure love and light into our day, by recognizing that there's something beautiful to learn from all of these experiences. The universe is always working out in your favor. And so because of that, if we show resistance to it and show more feeding into duality, feeding into fear, things of that nature, we can get stuck in those kind of parallel karmic looping timelines. Or we have a choice point. We have a choice point to then anchor in as much love, light, and truth and dance our way out of hell. And that's kind of what it's been like. Just earlier we were outside on the patio, and it's super dark outside and misty and just kind of nasty. And Samantha's like, it's beautiful outside right now. And I looked at her, I was like, I agree, it's absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, it's cold. It looks very eerie and dark, yet we're choosing to talk about how beautiful it is because we recognize that our thoughts and our words are creating our reality. So now we're being extremely mindful that we've unplugged and being way more intentional with being able to dance through this timeline and collapse it as quick as possible. And whether or not we're here for a while or we're here for a short time, We're consciously choosing to remember who we are in the I Am presence and in the divinity of our heart space, and choosing to live there and shine as much light onto this as possible. And so because of that, there's been a lot of psychic threats coming through, a lot of not so nice things showing up and trying to scare me into submission and trying to freak me out. And frankly, it's just not going to happen. I've been through these before. And you know, this some of us projected down into this reality to go through a little bit tougher timelines because we knew we could handle it. And I always have to even reaffirm to myself that, you know, no matter what happens, I'll just reincarnate. I'll come back. We're going to keep doing this. And it's not going to stop until the ascension process is complete. And so, you know, reminding myself of these things, like, it doesn't need to get that dark and that morbid, okay? Like, I mean, for me, there's some real stuff that I'm facing with topics I've chose to dive into. But because of that, I have an opportunity now to really, really, really find joy and anchor in as much love and light and truth into this, and to allow as much truth to come out of my system that is pure truth, pure divine love and truth. And that's what's really happened now, is since the veil is non-existent, we're starting to see things in a whole new light. You know, discovering more truth about the archangels, which has been around for a little while, but at least for us, it's now become a vibrational match of being able to see these things. You know, looking at the, you know, topics like the Metatronic Death Star, and really kind of diving into those topics. Now, on the flip side, there's another message that's very clear and coming through a lot right now, and it's coming from the Arcturians, and that's to shut off our social media and to not dive into these truths. Just because when it comes to conscious creation, these things exist because they were created into our reality. These laws, all these laws that have been governing this universe and have gotten very torn and twisted and out of hand, are all because the collective chose to dive into those laws and cement them into stone by reading into them and giving power to them. And so for us, a lot of this time now is to really, like, you know, dive into these truths and see these things and recognize it, but then choose consciously to create the world that we desire. Because now we're intentional, conscious creators here. So we really are having to be mindful of the consumption rate of what we're consuming and what we're allowing into our system. Because we could keep feeding into this timeline by discovering these truths and seeing all the darkness and da-da-da-da-da. And granted, we need this right now. We, as a collective, and especially the collective of light workers, need to see this stuff. Because what it's doing is it's providing us the opportunity to not only think for ourselves, but also to restructure and reframe, you know, our entire world, our ascension process. This was what I discussed in the January 2020 update, is 2020 is going to be a time of clarity and a time of change. We're going to be changing everything about ourselves, including our viewpoints. It's like our world got completely flipped upside down, but when you actually look at it, it's being flipped right side up. So this reversal process, which feels like a reversal, is actually everything being seen exactly for what it is. But we also have an option here. We can either continue to dive into those truths, okay, and pick it apart and dissect it and start to play the blame game against these people and that person and these groups and these entities and these beings, or we have an opportunity to see it for what it is and be able to create a reality of our liking, where we can not live on that timeline and create more of a harmonious and unified field for all of us to live within. And so if you're going through this right now and you're feeling like this, like, little dark undertone, it's there, okay? I will tell you at least where we're at and what we're going on. If you tune into it, you can see it. And this is seeing the truth for what it is. Everything looks beautiful and smiley and everyone's happy and go lucky, but there's just this dark undertone. And I have had to sit there for quite a few days to go, okay, you know, is this a programming that's running within my field? Is this, you know, a mindset? What is this? And after much reflection, I recognize that because I saw it the other night, fully what was going on, I've been in these timelines before. And I have a wonderful soul mom out there who's the one that helped me get from San Diego over to Texas, and she landed in one of these timelines with me as we were crossing through New Mexico. And this is where is interesting, because in the stretch of New Mexico that we were going through, it was near White Sands, and there's a lot of military installation through that stretch of New Mexico that we were going through, and we landed in one of these realities. And she, from the get-go, wanted me to keep her anonymous, so her name is going to remain anonymous, but her and I have landed in one of these realities before, and we had some stuff occur that was not so friendly to us, that actually ended up leaving some scars, not physical ones, but soul ones that we've been working through since we parted ways in August. And so I now have 2 other people that have landed in these timelines with me, and we see them for what they are. And the option now is to dance our way out of hell, basically. Dance our way out of hell. And to really anchor in more of that higher truth and that higher love, and to be more mindful of what we're consuming and what we're plugging into belief system wise. And really, you know, throughout the day, revoking a lot. Revoking different projects that we may have been involved in that we didn't know we were involved in. Diving more into things like MK Ultra and My Lab and SSP and Project Bluebeam. Things like what was it? Anyways, I'm now drawing a blank.
Good.
See? It's because we can start to dive into this stuff more and more, and we can start creating it more into our reality, or we have an option. We have a choice point to focus on the highest, purest love, the highest, purest truth, and be able to dance our way out of this. So if you're going through this right now, first off, you're not alone. But best believe we are going to shine as much light into these worlds, and we are going to continually create and continue to do our light weaving, creating the highest possible outcome for everyone involved. And we're going to keep standing in our love and standing in our truth, and we're going to invite pure love into everything we do. And because of this instance happening, I'm actually noticing that I'm unifying more with people. Like, because when we're out in public, like we went out today, and when, you know, we recognize, it's like I recognize, like, hey, if you're standing here next to me, we're all in this place together, like, let's laugh and dance. And so because of that, it's creating this, like, interesting banding and unification, and especially with light workers globally, I'm noticing that there's more truth seekers that are coming out of the woodworks, and there's more of kind of a little bit of an uprising, though, that's happening, too. I tuned into the Lightworker Collective as I get stung in the neck by something. I was tuning into the Lightworker Collective earlier, and I felt this like uprising, like we're about to go for, you know, and I just want to remind people that, yeah, when we start to discover these truths and see these things happening, we can choose to kind of play out the old narrative of war and showing aggression towards these things, or we inject love, light, and peace into that, and we anchor in the highest available timeline and recognize that all of this is going to come out of the woodworks. We're going to be discovering more and more and more, including, you know, learning true energetic autonomy, learning truly about all of the different aspects of these movements, and learning more truth of the underlying tones of everything, and that not everything is at face value, but also recognizing there's 2 sides of every coin too. So just as there's a lighter perspective, there's also a more shadowy perspective, and when we learn to see them both and integrate, we can start to then make a choice about how we engage with others, how we engage with this truth, and what sources we go to for this truth. And so for us, it's been going straight to Prime Creator and really being mindful of the people that we are listening to, that we are engaging with, and just really trying to find our truth, which is just love, which is just how now too, having to take that time towards stepping off social media, stepping off the truth seeking, and really finding that love and that purity within, and injecting that into everything that you do on a day-to-day basis, moment by moment, living in the now, living in the I am, so we can continue to anchor in the best timeline for all of us. So much love and respect to everyone out in the Webiverse. I hope everyone is doing well, regardless of if you are in that high timeline and that's not happening, or you're with us down here and we're clearing this out and collapsing this. I hope everyone is being met with love, light, and truth. I hope that you are treating your ascension symptoms well. Hope you are living in joy and love and in light. And so with that, we're going to keep dropping the purity wherever we can, realigning, calling forth everything that we need, and dissolving all of these narratives. So much love and respect to everybody out in the Webiverse, and I will see you on the other side. Namaste.